Then you have to get to the line of scrimmage, and there's shifts and there's motions, a lot of pre-snap movement. This is something that Caleb Williams has to master. It'll be a work in progress because those things are absolutely critical to run Ben Johnson's offense correctly.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Finish Strong Friday, and we're not messing around. I got to get to that wild Eagles-Cowboys game last night. But first, it's not part one. It's part two of Greg Cosell. A bunch of more games to get into with the civilian GOAT. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, it is Cosell part two. We got to get into a bunch of big-time games. I mean, honestly, Packers, Lions, and Ravens, Bills might be the two biggest games of the week, Greg. Plus, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on Bears, Vikings. But I do want to start, maybe selfishly, with my game. And it is the Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. Very interesting, right? Because you got Brandon Staley back as the DC for the Saints, back in the league. Kellen Moore, the OC with Rattler there in New Orleans. And then Arizona, they do some really cool things, Greg. Just studying them, and they have the most explosive runs in the NFL. I like what I see from Petzing, their OC. And then defensively, you've talked about this before. It is very rare that someone in the NFL does something totally unique and different. But that is what you've talked about briefly before with this Arizona defense. And I think their 32-year-old defensive coordinator, Nick Rallis. What do you see when you study that Cardinals defense, Greg?
Yeah, well, we talked about this last year, but to refresh people's minds, what they do, one of the main things they do is they line up three defensive backs. One of them is their nickel. So the nickel doesn't line up in a normal spot over the slot. They line up three defensive backs at quarters depth, about 10 yards off the ball, literally across 10 yards off the ball. And the corners, of course, are on the outside. They could be off the ball. They could be in press. But three across, including the slot corner, almost all the time, Budda Baker is in the middle. And they actually do that as a run game, not a pass game principle, Ross. And the reason they do it is because of the three, it's usually Baker, but it doesn't have to be. When the offense runs the ball, they don't know who the add-in defender is going to be in the run game, and it makes it very difficult for offensive linemen to try to figure that out once the play starts. Who am I going to get to? Who's the add-in defender? Because he's not in a normal spot that they're used to. And that is a big deal, and it's hard. You know, you played O-line. That's hard to figure out. So very often, when I would watch them last year, Budda Baker would be unblocked and make plays in the run game.
Just to piggyback off of what Greg's saying, okay? So most teams, all right, want to have an extra guy against the run to make sure they don't have to ask any guy to have two gaps.
Right.
So that every guy has a gap. As an offensive lineman, you can usually see before the snap who that extra guy is. I mean, a lot of times the guy's just standing there.
Right.
Other times you can see by the way they're lined up who's starting to come down. And what you do is you want to push, Greg. If you're running right, okay, you want to leave the last guy to the left or the last guy off the ball to the left. You leave him unblocked. You want to block the guys at the point of attack where you're running, because then you're at least getting 4 or 5 yards. If the backside guy makes the tackle chasing it down, it's at least 5 yards, and you can't block everybody, right? If you don't know where that guy is coming from, that is really, really tough, and I've seen it. You know, people almost try to make it Budda every time, but then when you do that, they have it be one of the other guys.
Correct.
Because Jalen Thompson can tackle, and Garrett Williams can tackle.
Yes.
I mean, they're almost like positionless guys at times. And Buddha's the main guy, but even if it is Budda, Are you sure? And are you going to account for a middle of the field safety 10 yards off the ball?
The bottom line, Ross, and you know this having played O-line, is you're thinking about what the front looks like, over front, under front, whatever you want to name it, and then you're aware of the linebacker shell. The linebacker shell will tell you if someone, and this is normal stuff now, not what the cards do, normal stuff, the linebacker shell tells you, oh, well, I think a safety's got to come down because they can't cover that gap over there. So you're looking at the front and the linebacker shell. That's normal, correct?
Absolutely. And it's a lot to ask a young quarterback like Rattler. You know, I can just say, Greg, I talked to Eric McCoy yesterday prepping for the game.
Really good player, by the way.
Really good player. And, you know, he made a point which I thought was interesting. And I've made this point too. Depending on how much you ask of your center, Greg, keep in mind, there's a 330-pound guy 4 inches from his nose.
Right.
You know, it sounds great for the coaches to be like, look for this safety, look for this. There's a huge man right in front. And by the way, he's not just there blocking your view. He's trying to kill you. You know, like there's a whole different element to this. At least for McCoy, it's a home game,
Right.
You know, which is a whole other element to it. But
I'm just glad, I'm glad you mentioned the run game, and then we'll move on, because I think James Conner is one of the most overlooked backs in the league, and there's no question the Cards want to run the ball. We've talked about Kyler Murray many times. We'll leave that alone for now. But I think James Conner is a really good back, and I think that they're foundationally a run-first team.
No question. And I don't want to say everything I'm going to say during the game Sunday. Greg, they have some bullies. Like Froholt, the center, this new right guard, Isaiah Adams, and you know what else they have?
He's
they
the
might have
Illinois
best
kid.
blocking
He's
tight end in
a
the league.
big man.
Have you seen Tip Ryman, 87, Greg? This second tight end for the Cardinals, he is trying to kill people. And if your tight end can block a D end at the point of attack, that is huge in today's game.
And let me just say this: they're both from Illinois? And if I'm not mistaken, isn't Brent Bielema the head coach at Illinois in
Brett
college?
Bielema, yep.
And he's an O-line guy. So they drafted two guys who, with a background of being physical, competitive, tough guys who have to block in the run game.
I love it. Okay, let's get into some of these juicy matchups. Packers-Lions. Now, yesterday's episode, we talked about what the Cowboys were losing in Micah Parsons. That is what the Packers are gaining with Micah Parsons, as the Packers take on a Lions team with 2 new coordinators, which adds to the intrigue, Greg.
Yeah, and here's the deal. Jeff Hafley is the D coordinator for the Packers, and he's a predominant 4-down guy. And what'll be interesting to see is if they move Parsons around the way the Cowboys did, or if they essentially use him as an edge rusher. I think they'll move him around for this reason. The Packers last year are one of the highest percentage stunt defenses in the NFL. And the way Parsons can move around and then work as a looper, or, looper, he's obviously dynamic. He certainly can be a picker/penetrator as well because he's so powerful. But I think with all the stunting they do, particularly on 3rd down, that Parsons can really be a big factor in that defensive front. They did that. Certain teams really stunted a ton last year. We'll talk about the Rams momentarily against Houston. They did it as well. But I think that's what you'll see a lot of with that stunting, which the Packers do a lot of, high volume, and are very good at.
It's interesting, Greg. Everybody's different. I was not great in one-on-one pass protection, short arms and all that. I love teams that ran a lot of stunts because I could see them coming and I could pass them off. Like, I was much better against a team running stunts and blitzes than I was a team just having Leroy Glover or Bryant Young just rush me one-on-one.
Well, and another factor, too, is you could even see a little more blitzing because Edgerrin Cooper last year was a rookie and he missed time, and then when he started playing later in the season, he's still getting his feet wet. He was a terrific pass rusher at Texas A&M. So now that he's there for a full off season and they see what his traits are and how good a pass rusher he is, it's very possible they could increase their blitz percentage and do some more things in tandem with Micah Parsons because Cooper is an excellent pass rusher.
It's a great point. I'll make another one. I'm expecting Rashawn Gary to have a really big year. He's a good player, but most of the time he's been the focal point
Yep.
of opposing offenses. That's not the case. They're going to be worried about Parsons. Rashawn Gary should get a ton of one-on-ones this year, Greg.
The question will be their secondary. They lost Alexander. They've got some issues on the back end. I'll call them, I don't like to say things are a problem because you don't know, but let's just say it'll be a work in progress till they figure out the best combination on the back end. And you'd have to assume conceptually the Lions pass game will be similar. It's the same thing we spoke about yesterday with the play calling when you have a new coordinator, but I can't imagine they're changing anything conceptually because that pass game and that whole offense is so well put together.
Okay, this game is fascinating, Greg. It's the Ravens and the Bills. It's two of the top 5 teams in my Tuesday power rankings. This is rare. Greg, these are like almost the same team. I feel like they just played. I mean, it's the same coordinators.
Yeah.
It's virtually the same players. Like, like the Bills added Bosa and they had draft picks or whatever. But it feels like these two teams, it's the same guys playing in the same stadium at the same game. Like, I'll be curious to see what they change from that playoff matchup.
Well, the fascinating thing about that playoff matchup, which I think surprised a lot of people, was the Bills dominated running the football. If memory serves me correctly, Josh Allen threw for less than 130 yards. Who would have thought in Buffalo in a playoff game, the divisional playoff game, that the Bills would win the game with Josh Allen throwing for less than 130 yards? And who would have thought that the Ravens, who are sort of built on physicality, that's their whole deal, that they really struggle to stop the run game. That was how the Bills won that game. So I'm very curious. I don't think it'll play out the same way at all in this game.
Well, no, and if you're the Ravens, I mean, Matabike, Travis Jones, Roquan, that can't happen.
No.
I didn't go back and study it, Greg, to see what they were doing schematically. You always talk about how the Bills use a lot of sixth offensive lineman stuff, which is interesting. The Bills invested a ton of resources into their D-line. Clearly, Greg, they think that is what they needed to get over the top.
Yeah, I mean, Sean McDermott is a selective blitzer. He's not, even though he came from the Jim Johnson school back when Jim Johnson was the D coordinator for the Eagles, he's not a blitzer like that, so he's more selective. He would love to get his pressure from his down 4. They struggled with that a year ago. Of course, they lost Milano again last year for meaningful time. He's a really good player. The corner position is a concern going into this Week 1 game. Tre'Davious White is an unknown as we speak. Even Bedford, who they signed, who's been a very good player, the former late-round pick from Villanova, I think he's been fighting injury. One guy to keep an eye on, and I think he's going to be a really good player, was a later-round pick, Dorian Strong, a corner from Virginia Tech. I really loved his tape. He's a press man corner, and that's something the Bills know that they need to do more of. They need to play more press man. Everything can't be off coverage zone. So I'm very curious to see. And of course, we know the Lamar Jackson factor and the Henry factor. We don't need to talk about that. That's obvious stuff.
Well, remember, Maxwell Hairston, the Bills' first-round pick, is out.
Yeah.
We don't know if Tre'Davious White will play. I mean, it might be Jamarcus Ingram or the Strong kid. They might start in this game. Let me just tell you, whichever one of those guys starts, good luck, because that's who Todd Monken's going to be coming after.
And Cole Bishop, who I really like coming out of Utah, is going to start at safety with Rapp. And that's basically, he's playing. He had snaps last year as a rookie, but not many. So he's another guy you could target.
All right, let's talk Texans and Rams. We still have no idea what's going on with Joe Mixon, but doesn't look like he's playing anytime soon. The Texans are loaded on defense. Meanwhile, the Rams, Stafford's healthy, and it looks like Alaric Jackson, their left tackle, will play. What are you looking for in this one?
Well, the thing that really stood out to me in this game as I went through tape this summer of both teams was the Rams front 4. They have a young front 4. It's really, really good. They have an incredibly high stunt percentage. They're terrific at it. And I went back last year, and the Texans' O-line is totally different, with the exception of one player, the right tackle Howard. Otherwise, it's a totally different O-line. But last year, Stroud was the most sacked quarterback on third down in the NFL, and they had so much trouble with stunts. And this is what they're going to get from the Rams. So the Rams are going to test that new O-line. I mean, they're so explosive with Young and Verse on the outside, Turner and Fisk on the inside. All those guys are dynamic and explosive. They're really good with the stunt game, multiple stunt concepts. That's what really stood out to me in looking at the tape.
Well, and what's crazy about that, Greg, is Titus Howard, he was playing left guard at the end of the year.
At the end of last year, and now he's back at right tackle.
I mean, they had Patterson at center, Blake Fisher at right tackle. They have a lot of money, when you think about Cam Robinson and then all these second-round picks like Scruggs and Blake Fisher. These guys are all backups now.
They're going to start the rookie. They're going to start the rookie.
Other teams would play those guys regardless. They evidently got beat out.
No, they're going to start the rookie Ursary at left tackle, and they're going to test him with stunts. And by the way, you mentioned Howard. He's now at right tackle. When he played right tackle last year, he's a guy that struggles in one-on-one pass protection, and he is going to be tested in this game.
By the way, there aren't many guys in the NFL that I appreciate more than Jared Verse. I mean, the way he plays, I don't know how long he'll be able to play like that, Greg, but I swear he's like speed to power 60 times a game.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think Teron Armstead said he's the reason why he retired.
Yeah, Verse he's a powerful man.
Okay. We might get to some other games as well, but I got to get to Vikings, Bears.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football. There's a lot going on here, right? We got J.J. McCarthy getting his first start for the Vikings against his hometown team on Monday Night Football. And the Bears, obviously, it's the first game with Ben Johnson. So there's a lot of fascinating stuff here.
Way too much for the time we have, but, before Caleb Williams even gets to the line of scrimmage and looks at that Viking defense, which, by the way, can do so many different things. I actually went back and looked at the two games last year, and I know Ben Johnson wasn't there, but I was looking at it from the Vikings defensive perspective. In the first game, they had so many snaps where they had 6 and 7 on the ball, and we know they don't rush 6 and 7 every play. They drop people out. You don't know who's coming, who's dropping. The next game, the second time they played, totally different concepts. They didn't line up with 6 and 7. They did totally different things. So before you even get to that, one thing I'm looking for, because we know with Ben Johnson that the play calls are wordy. There's often 2 play calls. There's alerts. Then you have to get to the line of scrimmage, and there's shifts and there's motions, a lot of pre-snap movement. This is something that Caleb Williams has to master. It'll be a work in progress because those things are absolutely critical to run Ben Johnson's offense correctly. So it's really the operational part of playing quarterback that is so critical for Caleb Williams before it even gets to what he's looking at and trying to understand what Brian Flores is trying to do to him.
You know what my take is on this game, Greg? You can say this about every team and every game. I know that, but it could get real ugly if the Bears are in a lot of obvious passing downs because of what Flores does and because of Caleb's propensity to hold on to the football. What I liked from some of the things I saw from the Bears in the preseason is the play action under center, the boots. There's as you would say, there's a timing and rhythm to those plays.
Built in.
And so you're throwing it on your terms, and the quarterback knows when he needs to get the ball out.
Yes.
And I just think that Caleb will be much better off if they're doing the boots and the play actions from under center than if they're in those third and eight and stuff. They're going to bring the kitchen sink, and that's a propensity for him to hold on to the ball.
I would agree. And that play action under center, by the way, is a foundational part of the Ben Johnson offense because last year Jared Goff had more under center play action snaps than any quarterback in the league.
Okay, let's talk Niners Seahawks, Greg. Sneaky good game in the NFC West. Seahawks obviously made a change at quarterback, at OC. The Niners, they got their guys back. Trent Williams, McCaffrey, etc. What are you looking for in this one?
I'm sure this hasn't been talked about a lot, but I think that the Seahawks, you said sneaky good game. I think Seahawks have a sneaky good defense. I think that they have a lot of young players who are improving. They've got a lot of players people aren't aware of, maybe, that are really good, like Julian Love at safety. This will be the second year for Byron Murphy, and I think he'll be an ascending player. Leonard Williams had a great second half of the season last year. They were so excited to draft Eminwari from South Carolina, who in the preseason was playing. They played a lot of what we call big nickel with three safeties. And Mike McDonald, their head coach slash DC, was playing Eminwari very similarly to the way he deployed Kyle Hamilton when Mike McDonald was in Baltimore, because Eminwari is almost 6'4", 220. And by the way, ran a 4.37 or 4.38 at the combine, which is ridiculous for that size. So this is a sneaky, interesting defense to watch as the season progresses.
And I'll give you one other thing. Just watching some Cardinals for this game, that front, Leonard Williams, Murphy, they got after the Cardinals O-line in those games. I don't think people realize the Seahawks D-line is legit.
Yes.
All right, last game. Giants, Commanders. Obviously, not a lot of changeover in terms of the coaching staffs, but we do have a new quarterback for the Giants, and that defense looked ferocious. I'm looking forward to seeing this Giants front try to get after Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, this Giant defense actually could be pretty good. Shane Bowen's been doing this a while. He's one of the better D coordinators in the league that people probably don't know much about. One of the things that really stood out watching the Commanders tape from a year ago, besides the fact that Jaden Daniels played well, was they had the most no-huddle snaps of any team in the NFL by a wide margin. And I would expect them to continue to do that, particularly against a Giant defense that has a lot of good players, make the Giants have to be settled, not have a lot of communication and adjustment. Then it becomes more predictable for a young quarterback. Because don't forget, we talk about Daniels like he's been playing for 10 years. He's still only a second-year player, and teams will have watched his tape, and they'll see things, and they'll try to do things, and it always is a little different in your second year. Look at what C.J. Stroud, he'll tell you that. So I would expect the Commanders to stay with a high percentage of no-huddle to really make it as more predictable as it can be for a young quarterback.
The other thing with that, Greg, is that tires out D linemen in the no huddle, especially if you go up tempo with it. And with Burns and Lawrence being a big guy, and obviously Abdul Carter, anything you can do to try to slow those guys down is very helpful as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. But that this intriguing matchup, obviously, with the Russell Wilson factor, that's such an unknown to me. I just don't know how that's going to play out.
All right, check this guy out on social media at Greg Cosell, so you always know what he's up to, and so you can check out the NFL Matchup Show on ESPN, ESPN2 all weekend. How about that? Back-to-back Cosell episodes, over 40 minutes of incredible content. You're getting that every week here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Ross.
All right, let's dive into the news, but first, have you ever had a friend just give you $5,000? Probably not, right? Well, you do now. That's what I'm doing by giving you the website westshorehome.com/Ross. I know some of you have thought about getting new doors like I've gotten, or a new bathroom, which is amazing. I'm getting a new shower in my detached garage, which is kind of like daddy's garage, thanks to westshorehome.com/Ross. Think about the deals you're stacking right now, okay? You can buy a full bath remodel and get a shower replace another bathroom free. That's wild. Or you can buy a house full of windows, which is amazing for like your heat and your AC, and get a new entry door free. I'm talking 12 months, no payments, no interest. But you also get an exclusive discount of $5,000 by going to westshorehome.com/Ross. It's westshorehome.com/Ross. All right, dudes and dudettes, tuckheads, whatever. It's game week. Do you have a plan? I hope you have a plan. Hope the plan includes Smirnoff. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. It's Smirnoff number 21, like Deion Sanders vodka. distilled from grain, 40% like Mike Allstott, alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age, but do share that website with people over 21. Smirnoff.com for the award-winning vodka and the official vodka partner of the NFL, so that you have a terrific plan for all the games this weekend.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, the Eagles, they beat the Dallas Cowboys 24-20 open the NFL season. What were your takeaways?
What a wild game. I mean, I joked on social media at Ross Tucker NFL that was the first time I ever called a lightning delayed game after a star player spit on the opposing quarterback and got ejected before the first play. I mean, I don't even know what to say about some of the things that happened in that game. The Jalen Carter thing, I honestly am at a loss for words. Just galactically, I'll use the word selfish in that case. Now, during the game, how crazy is it? No punts until the lightning delay with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, 21-20 at halftime. Neither team is able to stop the other one. And then after the lightning delay, it was over. There were no more points. It was all punts. There was no more movement of the football. You know, I guess I thought, Jack, both quarterbacks played very well. I thought ultimately Jalen, the two things that were the biggest difference in the game were really Jalen Hurts' legs running for first downs, running for touchdowns, and CeeDee Lamb's drops. I thought Dak was fantastic in that game. CeeDee Lamb has to catch those footballs. He had a big game as it was. It could have been a lot better if he had been able to catch those passes, which he, unfortunately for the Cowboys, was not. Huge missed opportunity for the Cowboys. There is some news, by the way, too, Jack, that I'll get to briefly. The Broncos signed edge rusher Nick Bonito to a huge deal, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in franchise history. Seahawks signed Abe Lucas, their right tackle, to a big money deal. Amari Cooper retired, and a bunch of injuries to keep your eye on. Guys that didn't practice on Thursday, like Christian McCaffrey, Myles Garrett, a bunch of them that popped up on Thursday to keep an eye on. We'll have an update tomorrow on a Saturday sit-down. Remember, we got a new show tomorrow, Saturday sit-down with Jay Feely.
Time to finish this episode strong right after this. All right, I got a new idea for Labatt here, okay? If you guys go to rewards.labattusa.com and you get any of the incredible merch they have, I have the fridge, the mini fridge, and I have the cooler backpack. If you get anything, I will send you a signed autograph in the mail. How awesome is that? Just go to rewards.labattusa.com. This is obviously after you buy some Labatt, you upload your receipt. That's how you get exclusive merch. It's the only way to get this merch. Rewards.labattusa.com. But if you do this, if you buy beer and get gear and show me proof with an email to ross@rosstucker.com, I just decide I'm sending you an autograph in the mail. ross@rosstucker.com. Rewards.labattusa.com. It's like a win-win-win.
Other than that, I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com, Sporticulture, and what else we got? We always got Pizza Boy Brewing, backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com.